Last week, I blocked off my entire week and ended up taking 31 sales calls. And let me tell you, it was exhausting. Day one, I was like, okay, cool. This is going well. I'm going to make it through and I'm learning a lot. Day 3, I was totally done. The entire experience reminded me of why we actually switched to webinars in the first place here at Extendly. And just for a little bit of background, if you don't know what a webinar is, think of it as a presentation where you're bringing on a bunch of people to teach them something awesome, which is really what you should be doing in half of your sales calls anyways. And by the end, just like a sales call, you give people a chance to work with you further. But the difference is, instead of talking to just one person on a sales call, you might be talking to 100. And instead of just signing up one person, you have the opportunity to sign up, let's say at the worst case scenario, 10% of them. Now, before I get started, you might be thinking, hey, I don't even know how to get people to sign up, let alone get them to buy. Or maybe you've tried webinars before, but the results just weren't there. Don't worry, I've got you covered. The secret where most people mess up, it's not just about hosting the webinar. The magic happens in getting the right people to show up and keeping them so engaged that by the end, they can't wait to buy from you. So let's get into some of the steps and strategies you can start using from before the webinar to during and then after, including what I've coined as our activate, boost, and convert strategy. So let's talk about how do you get people to sign up and show up to your webinar. So you have a few different strategies. The number one thing that we've seen to work best and is the most cost effective is emailing your list. And before I get into it, you're probably thinking, hey Sharon, I'm starting off, I don't have a list. Let me tell you, you do. You have contacts on your social media, friends and family from your phone, business partners you've worked with in the past, vendors. There are tons of contacts that you have. You just have to do a little bit of digging to gather them all in one place. Reach out to those people first. And let me tell you, at Extendly, when we did our very first webinar, we only had 20 people show up. We did not have a huge list to email, but we continued to promote our webinars more and more, which made our list grow. So you just have to start and the results will come naturally. Now, the other strategy that we've used is running Facebook ads. This works extremely well. Let me give you guys a few creative strategies that you can employ here. One, on the ad graphics itself, you want to make sure that you have some sort of lead magnet that you're giving away. It could be a free PDF or a workbook, or they get to spend a day with you, anything that you can give away of value that somebody would want to opt in and attend this webinar. Secondly, you can use a well-known speaker. So we've done this a lot of times where we've partnered with high level and brought them on to our webinars as one of the speakers. And now that gives us more credibility and authority and makes people want to come to our webinar to come and listen to this other guest speaker that we're bringing on. And lastly, put that extra little bit of friction in there, take them to a landing page and have them register. It's going to bring you higher quality leads. So now that we've covered that you want to drive people to the landing page, what do you actually write on that landing page? So first and foremost is going to be your headline. You want to put 90% of your energy into making sure that this headline is the best that it can possibly be. So what does the headline need to do? The headline needs to create a little bit of curiosity. So don't tell them exactly what you're going to be teaching and overload them with information, but make it a little vague. So they kind of think like, interesting, what is this? What are they talking about? How can I get this result? And they're curious, right? And that curiosity is what will make them want to click on that button, put in their information and register. The second thing that your headline needs to have is a promise. What are they going to get by coming on to this webinar? What results did it bring for you? Showcase that. Here's an example of one of the landing pages that we've used. As you can see here, what we're calling out, this is our promise that we've been able to deliver, signing up 70 new customers each webinar, right? And this formula helped us ditch our one-on-one sales. That's what's creating a little bit of curiosity where people are wondering, okay, what's the formula? And then here, big, bold, you want to have the call to action button. On the call to action, I like to always include the date and time that the event is going to be at. So that is the main pieces of the headline. So here's another example. In this example, we called out our audience, new SaaS owners. So you want to make sure that's up at the top if there's a very particular audience that you're reaching out to. And then again, the headline tells us what they're going to get. Learn how to go from 0 to 10 customers in 3 days. The promise is we're going to show you how you can get 10 customers in 3 days. And lastly, this is our last example. This one does a really good job of that curiosity curiosity factor where we're making a very bold statement, stop chasing new clients. So that's kind of counterintuitive, right? Why would you want to stop chasing new clients? Then we go on to explain exactly why. So that gets them thinking, okay, what is this 3-step retention system that they're talking about? I want to learn it. Let me go join the workshop and come in live. Now, all of these landing pages we've A/B tested to get to this position, and we're consistently having a conversion rate on our landing pages at around 60%. So if you have these key things in place, you'll be able to get a similar type of result. So that was number one. The number one thing that you want to make sure that you do well on your landing page is the headline. Number two is the registration form. There's two places where you want to put that registration form. One is above the fold. Above the fold is simply in the header section of your website at the very top, right? Because just this headline should be enough to get that curiosity, to give them the confidence that, hey, I do want to spend my time on this presentation. Let me enter my information. And the second place is going to be towards the end of the page. Now, this is going to be after you explain what the webinar is about. You have a few bullet points and explanations of the content that you're going to be presenting. Right after you're done explaining that, put another registration form. What this does for your user is at the very top, when they're reading the header, you want to have your registration form. And then they read a little bit more and they're like, okay, cool, this is interesting. I want to register. And boom, the form is there for them to fill in their information and register. So there's 3 key things that you want to place on your thank you page. One is having the date and the time, right? You want to make sure that you remind the person to write down the date and the time and tell them that they're going to be getting their Zoom link to join the webinar in their email. The second thing, and this is actually the most important, you want to put a offer on that page. Now, this can be a low ticket offer or a free trial. So what we've done here is we've put a free trial of a high level account. And what this does is it gives people an opportunity to sign up for your product and you get some pre-sales in even before your webinar starts, right? How amazing would that feel if you already have sales coming in before you even start your presentation? That's what you can do with including it on your thank you page. And step 3 is you want them to be engaged with you. If you have a community on school, on Facebook, or wherever else your audience is, maybe you want them to follow you on YouTube, include that. So at least if they don't take step 2, they're a little bit more engaged with you by taking you up on step 3. Now, this concept of the thank you page works for any business, not just SaaS. The concept that I want to get across here is that you just want to put an offer on that thank you page. So the people who are excited and ready to work with you, you're giving them that opportunity. All right. So now that we've covered talking about ads and our landing pages, let me share with you my most favorite thing about this webinar strategy, which is our activate, boost, and convert strategy. So here what the workflows look like inside of High Level. We have an activate folder, a boost folder, and convert. The very first thing that we start off with is activate. Activate means you're inviting people to the webinar, right? So you're sending out emails and text messages to your email list to activate them, to invite them to register for your webinar. Do you want to have an email invite, an SMS invite, and we do this quick trigger link tip that I'm going to show you. Let me tell you a few key tips on making sure that these emails are structured well. First off, you want to make sure that you start promoting the event at least a week and a half before the event actually starts, so that your audience has enough time to learn about what it is, clear their calendar, and make sure that they have the time to show up. What you should actually say in the email is quite simple. Number 1, you want to make sure you have just one image that's going to grab their attention. Number 2, you want to tell them what they're going to learn. You don't want to write a whole novel in this email about every single detail that you're going to cover on the webinar, but just highlights. And again, make sure that you keep it slightly vague so they have that curiosity. The best way to do this is to put it into bullet points. The first thing that we're going to teach you is this. Second thing we're going to teach you is this. Third thing that we're going to teach you is this. The very last thing that you want to include in your email, and honestly, probably the most important, is a free gift. The key thing that you have to make sure with this free gift is that it must be valuable. It must be something that your customers would want to buy on its own if you were selling it, right? Otherwise, if it's not that valuable, if it's just some random PDF that you threw together, it's not going to be enough of a leverage point for them to want to spend their time on this webinar. For example, what we do at Extendly is we've given away our Academy for High Level, which is a course that we typically sell for $5,000, but we've included it on our webinars as a free gift that people get just for attending. Make sure that the gift that you give away is that valuable. So like I said, you want to make sure that you're promoting your webinar for a week and a half. That means you want to send one email every single day leading up to that event, right? The last 3 days of the event is when you start urgency. This is where you want to start your countdown emails. So you're going to say, hey, we're starting in 72 hours. This is your last chance to get in. Don't miss out on this opportunity to learn this valuable thing that's going to change your business strategy, right? And day 2, have a 48-hour countdown. One day before, have a 24-hour countdown. And on the day that the presentation begins, say, hey, we're closing up the registration in just a few hours. We're going to be getting started. We really don't want you to miss out. Go ahead and register. Those last 3 emails you can keep pretty short, because the main thing that you want to get across is the urgency that this is closing. You are going to miss out on this opportunity. And the way that we structure those urgency emails the day of is that we send one email 4 hours before the event starts, and then 1 hour before, and that 10-minute before is the absolute last chance, saying, hey, we just got started. If you wanted to hop in, go ahead and register, do so now, and we'll see you on the Zoom. And by employing these urgency tactics, you're going to see that the number of registrations drastically increase on those last 3 days. You can see here, I have one email going out every single day before the event. And then 3 days before, I just have this event start time and then the countdown email start. And this is kind of what you want to do when you're setting this process up, is create all these workflows, write up all these emails in advance so that you just have to press go. And during the promotion week, you're not stressing about, hey, I have to write this email for the next day. It's just all written out, ready to go. And people continue to register every single day. And for text messages, same things apply. The only caveat with text messages is you want to be a little bit more selective on the audience that you send it to. So I typically only send text messages to people who have registered or shown interest in webinars in the past and have interacted with us. But if you have a smaller list, you can go ahead and send out a SMS to everyone on your list. You are going to get some opt-outs. Just don't be scared of that. Make sure that you have opt-out language like we do here, and you'll be perfectly good. One hack that we figured out is on the email invites, we include a trigger link. So what happens in this workflow is that whenever somebody clicks on that trigger link, if they don't register after 20 minutes of clicking on that link, then we follow up with an SMS that says something like this: hey, you haven't signed up yet, and just a little bit more about what we're going to cover. And then again, send them the link to register. So that's just recapturing those people that have shown interest but haven't made it all the way through. This alone is going to boost your conversion rate by a couple percentage points. Now, a question that I get a lot is about replays. Should I include the replay? Should I not include the replay? The answer is no. You're not obligated to include the replay. You want to actually use the replay to push more sales to your offer. So here's what we do. On our invite emails, we actually make a note that this is a no replay event. And then on the event, we always have attendees asking for the replay. Zoom gives us a report of everyone who's attended and who has not attended, and we send the replay off to everyone who's attended, right? Because we want to reward the people who showed up and give them the opportunity to watch the event again and take the notes that they need. But we don't want to give it to the people that haven't showed up and reward them with the replay, because that'll make them feel like, hey, I could just register and not show up and I'll get the information that I need anyways. The second part of the Activate, Boost, and Convert strategy is the boost section that we've built within High Level. And I'm going to dive into that, but don't let this crazy looking automation scare you. It's actually quite simple. All it is when somebody registers, so when they fill out your registration form, you capture that, you're going to remove them from your Activate stage, and you're going to send them an email with their link to join us in on the Zoom call. So this email is just getting them a little bit more excited about what's going to happen next. We're covering what's going to happen on the 3 days of the event, and we're giving them the Zoom link. That's a key takeaway of what you want to write in this confirmation email. And we follow that up with an SMS SMS that tells them that they've been reserved and the date and time of the event, and we tell them to check their email for the link. Now, getting people to show up after you get all of those registrations, you got to get people to show up, right? So that's where this is going to help you. Our boost reminder sequence works like this. 4 hours before the event starts, we send an email and a text message. Then 1 hour before the event starts, we send another email and a text message. 10 minutes before the event starts, we send another email and a text message. And lastly, 5 minutes before the event starts, we tell them that, hey, we just got started. We want to make sure you're in the room with us. Here's the Zoom link. This may seem like a lot, but let me tell you, this sequence of text messages and emails is what has led us to having a 50% show up rate, which is kind of unheard of. And the average for webinars is around 30% of a show up rate. But if you employ this, you're going to have more people showing up. So we've covered activate and boost, which happened before the webinar. And before we get into convert, let's talk about what happens during the webinar. What are you going to say on the webinar? How are you going to run it? First thing is the duration. So we figured out that 90-minute webinars work the best. You want to have 60 minutes of your presentation, then 15 minutes of presenting your offer, and 15 minutes of QA at the end. This is the perfect combination to make sure that you're delivering enough value, you're giving people the chance to ask you questions, and you're making a strong offer at the end. If you're nervous about pitching, here's a quick little tip. During your whole presentation, what you focused on is building trust, right? You've positioned yourself as an authority where you're bringing all this education and this value to your audience. Use this trust to your advantage when you're pitching. So naturally lead the presentation into the pitch. One way we do this is we say, hey, now that you've seen these results, what if we could replicate these for you? And that's the perfect segue into talking about all the features and what's included in your offer. Now, the most exciting part is the convert stage. This is why you put on this whole webinar and made this effort, right? To get people to convert and to buy your offer. And you should feel excited and confident coming into this stage, because if your offer is something that's truly going to help people, then you have an obligation to make sure that people sign up to your offer so that you can help them. Now, during the convert stage, the very first communication that you want to send out is the free gift. So the key thing with the free gift is do not gift it or give the link on the presentation. I'm going to say that again. Do not give the link on the presentation. What that does is distract people from the offer. And we've seen early on when we did that, people actually drop off. The minute that we send the link, they grab the link and they're gone. They don't even listen to the pitch, right? That's really going to hurt your conversion rates, because if people leave even before making the pitch, you're lost, right? You did this whole presentation for not a lot of value. So do not give the link, but instead send the link right after the webinar is over in an email. Now you give them the link and gives you an opportunity to talk about your offer again and invite them to taking you up on it. So in that email where you're sending them the gift, also include a link and a call to action for them to purchase your offer. And now you might be wondering, what is that window that I should keep the offer open? That is going to be 24 to 48 hours. We've tested longer and we've tested shorter. The best thing is around that 24 to 48 hour mark. That gives people enough time to think about that they want to buy this, but also creates the urgency that they need to buy this right now. So after the 48 hours, now you want to send out the replays. These replays are going to go out to everyone who's attended but didn't buy, because it's another excuse for you to email them about your offer. In those replay emails, you can call out sections of the replay that somebody might find interesting. You could say something like, hey, go to the 10-minute mark in the replay where we talk about blah, blah, blah. And that gives people a very clear reason of why they should watch the replay. Here's an example of the replay page. Just like the registration page, your selling isn't done yet. You want to give people a reason to watch the replay. So have a headline that creates curiosity. That's what it is right here. Some people's churn rate went down from 13 to 4% after a few months of implementing this. Then have the replay. And I usually have a countdown timer on the replay page that says that this replay is going to expire in 72 hours. Because when somebody gets their hands on a replay, and you can probably resonate with this, is, you feel like, okay, I have it. I can watch it whenever. But if you put a countdown timer on it that this is only available for 72 hours, you're going to encourage people to watch it within that time frame. Have that countdown timer on it, and then after the time is expired, you can just take away that timer. But the most important thing is you want to have your call to action on the page below. Right here, we have our offer again, everything that's included, and the checkout page is linked so that people can go ahead and get started. Those are the key elements of the replay page. And once you implement this correctly, you're going to see that this replay page is going to continue to bring in sales after the webinar is over as well. So you're probably wondering, within that 24 to 48 hour window, how many emails and how many text messages should you send, right? We've figured out that you want to send 3 text messages and 3 emails. If your offer is closing within 24 hours, send one directly after the webinar is over, then 4 hours after the webinar is over, and then 2 hours before the deadline, if the deadline is at midnight. So you can stagger it that way and follow up every email with a text message. The content of these emails should be honestly pretty direct. One thing that I like to employ with the text messages is just directly asking people, hey, thanks for joining the webinar. We hope you got a lot of value out of it. We're wondering if you're going to be joining Extendly today. And then follow it up with, if you're not going to be joining, tell us transparently why not. And every time we ask that, we get flooded with responses back where people are like, hey, I really want to join, but I can't for XYZ reason, right? You want them to tell you that reason, that objection that they have, so that you can open up the conversation and address that objection and get them to close. This is where your sales skills are really going to come into play. So now we've covered the entire strategy that we've spent months perfecting on how to run a webinar. Everything from activating your list, boosting so that you get a high show up rate, and converting so those webinar and attendees actually become customers afterwards. And you'll see when you employ this correctly, your sales are going to continue days after the webinar is over. Now, we have a little something special for you. If you want to employ this whole system for your SaaS, you don't have to build it from the ground up. We've actually built our entire system into a snapshot. And if you want to learn more about it, click on the link in the description below and we'll have all the details for you there. So if you found this video helpful, please go ahead and like, comment below, and subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you more amazing content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.